1 minute remaining. I'll lead with US factory orders month over month. -10 seconds. -1 spot 3%, -1 spot 3%, which is higher than forecast, -2%. The prior was revised up to 5 spot 3% from 4 spot 8%. Durable goods revised -4 spot 5% as expected. Core durable goods revised 1 spot 4%, 1 spot 4% higher than forecast, 1 spot 3%. And we've posted the US factory orders report for May on the feed for those interested. Bank of England's man says if outturns, especially in expectations, are unfavourable to the underlying inflation process, an activist move can bring inflation expectations and outcomes toward the 2% target. And Man says in June there was more upside risks to inflation compared to downside risks for activity. And says the trade off between inflation risk and activity has led me to place more weight on inflation persistence, shifting my view toward a longer hold and potentially a need to lean against that risk. Bank of England's man says monetary policy can have quick effects. We have posted the full speech by Bank of England's man on the feed for those interested. Bank of England's man says in June, cost-oriented inflation pressures were being offset by domestic-oriented financial restrictiveness. And Man says that fiscal measures are important in getting us back to the inflation target. Bank of England's man says disaggregated labour signals in some sectors are less weak than the overall unemployment rate. Says energy prices, margins, and wages deals are key metrics. And man says short and long-term expectations remain elevated.
Good morning, good morning. Sorry, I was not at my PC. I just wanted to get the stream started, so, because I knew it was going to be a little late. Alright. What's up, Allie? What's up, XY? Aldito? Surf? Appreciate it. Made some improvements to the footprint, clearly. Let's see what these guys can do here. Big resistance here on NQ into 260.
Bank of England's man says going forward, the question is whether there will be upside surprises in fiscal policy.
This 590, they were taking in decent size, 590 and 594 on ES. It's not enough yet to take a short, but it is something that I'm watching now very clearly with the size that's being absorbed here. We want to see if we're going to get this pop or if this is going to hold. NQ and ES both making a lower high. ES looks a bit better with Russell
According to
holding 30-second
sources,
opening
Russia
range.
increased their oil exports from Western ports to a record 3 million barrels per day in June, and Russia plans to load up to 3 million barrels per day via its Western ports in July. Cable hits 1 week volatility, hits 5.21%, which is its lowest since January 22nd.
I think we'll know what's going to happen once NQ comes down to 220. That should give us an idea if we're going to bounce and flip or if this is going to hold resistance, like we said, with the lower high. Very clear level of interest here on NQ where we're rejecting. ES is holding much better, but NQ's fallen a bit more. Watching that 220 here to see our reaction. This is where the bid was last. So they're trying to take in size here at 220. See if they can hold it. Or if it'll flip. Same levels as yesterday. This should be your first risk off, in my opinion. And then we watch to see if there's going to be a bid, and we look for a retest into 220. This is the same pivot as yesterday. 200, 220 was our offer. And then we rotated down to 160. So if they fail to get us up, I would assume that we'll head down there. Oof, and Q dom is really thin. I think this is going to be a yes kind of day. Ooh. Sucks because NQ is the one that's leading right now. Let's see what they do here on ES. This is that 84. They're trying to sweep. Let's see if they can offer it or if we're going to be able to sustain. Very clear bid above us that absorbed, like we talked about. There's your rotation down to 160 on NQ into our dip.
Key European nations accept that Hormuz's Strait fees are inevitable.
This is your next risk off. You're watching to see if 140 holds offer on retest.
So looking into this then, some leading European powers now accept that ships straddle Strait of Hormuz will have to pay fees to Iran and Oman, according to people familiar with the matter. The prospect of some sort of service fee in the aftermath of the US-Israeli war with the Islamic Republic was described as a given by the two people who asked not to be identified discussing private deliberations.
It's the exact same levels as yesterday. Right? Same levels. Get our flip of our 220 to 180, or sorry, 220 to 200, rotation down into our 140. Now just watching to see if we're going to get anything more here or if they're going to sustain this very clear range, value or above on that look. Now watching to see what we're going to do here. Watching 190, 200. Sorry, yeah, like that's where the absorption was last. I shouldn't say 200 is where we're watching on NQ. Look at this stacked imbalance here. We'll watch to see if they reject it and then continue us down as we push into this guy. From here, do we now reject, continue downwards, or are we able to recover? We flip this 200 on retest. I think we go to 240 on NQ. Watching now. There's your 240. Watch to see how offer holds here. 240, 260 is your POC to value high on the daily. Got to flip this for anything more, or this is where we'll expect a rejection and then a rotation back down to 200 to retest, and then we'll go on our way. I'd like to really see a 200, 220 retest, honestly, just to secure this. But let's see what they do. Something like this would be ideal before we take out highs. Bid trying at 240 on NQ. 40 seconds till new 15s. Watching our reaction here. Yes, trying to build above previous absorption. Could be a big deal on retest of 90s if we can bid it. Looking for some excitement as we push into this 86 to 90 on the open of a new 15. We open above that 86 to 90. I think we're in an okay spot if we see a pretty strong bid at open of the new 15s. Again, watching our 86.90 area here. We'd love to see a sustained bid into the open of the new 15 to hold that and then pop us. Failure to sustain here, I think, is going to lead to probably a trap and then a rotation, at least to retest this value low. New 15 is opening now. Let's see how they interact here. Yeah, that 86 to 90 is what I'm watching because of those deltas there. Yo, what's up, man? Morning. NQ is just so much weaker with this look above, which is why I'm like, yes, I'll lead here today. Bro, NQ Dom is so thin. They're really trying to take in size into 92 on ES. NQ weakness is leading us back down. Watching our 160 here for a higher low potential. ES coming into our area of interest, into this 86 to 90. Watching to see if we can hold. Need NQ to find a bid here for that to happen. Russell coming back down to our VWAP at 50s potentially. Need to get back over 90 for us to feel comfy on ES, or we are in for a potential failure here. Watching Russell into VWAP here at 50s for our bounce. A little look lower than I wanted to see on ES, but if Russell can get our bounce here at 50s, we're in an okay spot. Watching now for the bid to try to step in. Come on. Russell's still stable, not moving yet. Not selling though. NQ leading down. This thing's god awful. But we just did the full value rotation on NQ, so it should find about a bounce here. Looking for our buyers to step in. Still holding our 50 on Russell. NQ buyer at 140. Trying to get back above our 160 just like before. What are they going to do here? What is this?
In 10 minutes' time now, at the bottom of the hour, we see the release of the EIA's weekly natural gas storage change. The forecast is for a build of 84 BCF on the prior build of 76 BCF.
I'm not shorting this. I'm just waiting. I think that this will still probably pop, but we'll see. I can't short this. Not yet. I definitely see it on NQ, but NQ is way too thin for me to trade. So I gotta wait. I'm really watching Russell here at this 44 to 46 for this offer for a push down. If we're gonna do it, that would lead ES down to 72s. NQ would be 40s. Just keeping our eye on this. They're taking in so much size down here on ES. Yeah, they're still just absorbing down here. I think we're retesting 8680, 86 to 90 for our offer. Lower high here, watching. They're trying to take in buyers here at 83. We'll see which way we go in a second here. Sorry, this is probably not the view that you guys actually want to see. Watching these edges here. This is our POC shift. So if we hold that 86 to 83, like I was just talking about, we will reject and then rotate down here. We're watching for a lower high. And we're watching for something like this with Russell holding below VWAP for a rotation down to here.
Nordic American tankers say that ships are out of the Arabian Gulf. In 5 minutes' time now, at the bottom of the hour, we see the release of the weekly EIA natural gas change. Forecast is a build of 84 BCF on the prior build of 76 BCF.
It says Russell pushing down into our target here off of our flip of VWAP. Yes, halfway to target. Looking for 65s ideally on ES, but I don't know if we're going to get it in one swoop if Russell finds a bid here at our POC shift. Just keeping our eye on it. There's so much size being taken in on ES as we push down into this. They're really trying to absorb
Nasdaq
here.
100 erases gains to turn negative.
I'd like to see at least 72 here on ES. Surely. I just need Russell lower high here. It'll get a bounce, and then we look for absorption into like 42, 44, I think, and then one more leg down. That'd be ideal. All right, I'm out one here into 72, and then I have PT at 65s, just in case we can't sweep through here. Just want to take off one risk there. Let's see if we can get this next leg for our full target into 65s on ES. All right, perfect. There it is. That's full pathing with Russell follow through. So that's it for me on that trade, and now we'll watch to see what happens here now that the reversion, POC reversion
So noting
trade
the
has
S&P
flipped.
500 quickly pairing some gains here.
You can leave a runner if
We're
you have the
now up
opportunity to.
0.35%.
Still in trend, but great target here. This is ES into our 30-second opening range at 60s, and our POC shift here. So expecting a bit of a choppy bid. We'll see what they do from this point. NQ leading down, incredibly bearish structure so far. Took out our sorry. We are testing our London low, I think. Down at 826 is what's going to happen here. We'll see. Definitely potential for a bid at this 900, 910 area.
Tesla
But if
shares
that
extend
fails,
declines, last hour 5, spot 6%.
I would assume that we will see a one more leg down into 820, 840 area on NQ to test the London low. So let's watch for our reoffers. So let's see if we can go for that.
1 minute remaining
should
for the
expect a bid
EIA
here,
natural
just
gas
short
change.
term. And then we'll look to see what they do. We have news in 1 minute, as well as
Top NATO
new
military
15s.
commander to sources says European allies have largely filled gaps left by US reductions to NATO force model.
I'm thinking we'll probably look for an offer into 3,000 into new 15s. It's kind of my guess here. So we'll be looking in that area. And then we'll see if we can
10
take out
seconds.
that London low. I don't know what happens from there, but I think that's where we're headed. I think.
A build of 87 BCF, a build of 87 BCF, higher than the expected build of 84 BCF.
This is just a retesting value of our previous candle here on the open of new 15s. Good bid off our pivot here. 30-second opening range on ES. Watching to see what we do as we push back into our PVC value here at 68 with NQ into our 3000 area.
And we
Need
have
to see
posted the
Russell show
weekly EIA
weakness.
natural gas storage reports on the feed for those interested.
A lot of size being trying to being taken in here into 66 to 72 on ES. Watching to see if they'll absorb and trap here. So far, nothing yet. Watching our 3K as our point of interest on NQ as this happens. 72 is huge absorption on ES. Into our 3000 now on NQ. See how we interact. There's an attempt. Small so far. It is really trying on ES. That's 40 points from 3,000. Sorry, from 30,000. I don't know if we're going to get the full move, but just move stops down. Pretty good reaction so far. It's 60 points. Got to get below 900s for this next leg, or we'll just chop here. You can see the buyers trapped into those highs. Need to see sell side sweep these lows, and then we can look for a wick into London low. Until then, you will chop between this low and this high short term while we decide what we want to do. ES diverging, holding for a potential push up. That's why I'm a bit worried about that. This low would have to be taken. Watching Russell here. That's 100 points from 30,000 at our pivot here, watching to see if they'll sweep lows. I've got nothing on ES here. It's just a range between our 72 and 58, 56. So to me, this is we did the move on ES for all I know. Hmm. How did you know to switch to NQ there? Uh, yes, it's structure. NQ didn't, and we had a pretty clear pivot on ES and Russell into these lows, so I didn't expect much more follow through unless NQ was going to be the driving force. So to me, it's just like ES led the move down, and then NQ still had like room left, I guess. But there's very clearly someone taking in size here at 72, 76 on ES. Until we can flip this and show interest above, I'm not too excited about this area on ES. Very clear, we're just like hitting our heads here. If you're playing off 72, this is your first risk off on ES into 60s, your 30-second opening range here. No change in what we've talked about, just our 30-second opening range. Fifteen is a pretty bearish still, but just at our pivot, waiting on NQ to be able to sweep this low, or it's going to range like we talked about. Testing now on NQ, seeing if they can do it. Yes, again, just at our support. Watching to see if there's going to be anything new here, or 5660 continues to maintain. NQ going for our low. Held our 30K. This is target. We look to take out London low, and then we can figure out what we want to do from there. I don't know how much more of a move we're going to get past that, but I do at least think that that's our magnet into 25s, just to take out that liquidity. There it is. Liquidity taken. That was target. That's now a 200-point move on NQ from 30,000. ES 72 is holding, pushing down. Got a runner here. Let's see if we can get some continuation. Probably going to get a reoffer of 52.56 would be my assumption here to retest our edge as we push down on NQ. Or on ES. Russell still has the London low it could take. I don't know how much more we get here. We'll see. Watch our reoffer into this. We really just wanted to see a London load get taken. And now we'll figure out what we want to do. Retested our 52s absorbed so far on ES. See if we can get down to this 39. Russell London low, almost there. This is also our previous day low on New York on Russell. Later, man. Now that this is fully played, I'm deleting this so I can move my charts. Really solid trade off of our 30,000 offer from value of our previous candle, and now our target of London low being taken. Again, I don't know how much more we get here. I think we just need to retest to see now that we've taken that liquidity. Very clear LVN that we've created here, where we'll watch to see if absorption holds into this sweep that we just did. Watch to see if they take in size here to defend, or if we'll pop and then, you know, do something like this. I don't have an answer for you yet. We just did a 200-point move off of a 7 points of drawdown on that target. So if you're not happy with that, you're now chasing. So I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do from this point. Watching our pivots here to see if we're going to get another leg down as we push into these areas. We want to see very clear absorption and then a rotation off of it like this if we're going to go down. Failure would result in a rotation like this back up. Watch RTY for a decider. Yeah. It is never fun to trade NQ when it just rotates its 30-second opening range all day. That's how you know you're in a choppy market. Never fun. We're just waiting on Russell weakness, seeing if we can take in size here on NQ and ES while Russell comes into our halfway back would be my assumption. And then we'll figure out where we want to go from there. It's hard to take a short if Russell's pushing. Yes, and NQ coming into our value of our previous candle. Let's watch our offers as we push into these. See if they're going to do anything. Again, just our value of our previous candle here. There's your reaction right at our pivots. Watching, let's see if we can sweep these lows. Target would be 40s on ES, ideally. 50, sorry, 720 here on NQ. $720 and then 700. Just that zone. Just ADR. Russell testing our lows now. Yes, halfway to target. Big bid off of that Russell retest. Should just be a reoffer. We'll see. Testing. It's a much larger bid than I was anticipating. For what reason? Nothing's invalidated, but it's a little intense. Spire at 800 means business, man. Jeez. We need to get back below 800s, or that'll be where that bid sits. They need to very clearly sweep below that and then defend it. Or again, that's where that buyer will try to be. Trying to move this over so you can see price. Pretty clearly absorbed where we needed. Russell leading down, just took London low. Going into target here on NQ into our 2200, right? 720, 700. Watching now, seeing our reaction as we push into that. Russell lead. ES into target here into 40s. This is our first like real bid here on Russell at our London low, trying to defend that at 1970. So really like the first little piece of liquidity that we've seen that's shown any sort of signs of life. That might be it on the move with that. We'll see. Very curious. Watching our edge here on ES for our lower high into our ORL into 52. Need to see them pretty clearly take here. Again, Russell, that was like the first real bid that we've seen today on RTY there on that London low. This is NQ coming back up to our pivot off of our pop down into ADR. Watching Russell to see if it does a shift here or if this is going to be our first lower high. And this is our big buyer stepped in here. And we're just watching to
Apple
see
shares
if we'll
rising around
hold
4.1% on the session
this
now.
or if we're gonna, do something new where we can actually like move from this. Still absorbing here at our 30 second opening range. Yes, I still need this to flip and hold for me to care. We're watching to see if we're going to defend this right here, which is just our lower high into this edge. Seven, 52 is defended, bid trying here at 44, 46. RTY held our pivot. Watching as we retest this buyer down here. It's pretty clear that someone's trying to defend 750, 760 on NQ right now as Russell retests this guy. What's up, Sauce? RTY defending that low pretty clearly. Again, that's 50 to 60 guy in NQ defended and popped us with Russell. Yes, just coming into our pivot here again. We need to flip over 60s for this to matter. Any look back below 52 should lead to the same movement again like we have been doing. Just watching to see if we can flip
So the
over. New
US are
PVC
to
levels
sell
created now.
$92 billion in 3-month bills on July 6th, settling on July 9th, selling $79 billion in 6-month bills on the same dates as well. Also selling $39 billion in reopened 10-year notes July 8th, settling on July 15th. They're selling $58 billion in 3-year notes July 7th, settling July 15th, and $52 billion in 52-week bills July 7th, settling July 9th. They're also selling $22 billion in reopened 30-year bonds on July 9th to settle on July 15th.
You have an entry at 766. Should I move stops to break even now? Yeah, for sure. You mean you've made tons of profit already. You should watch, we're looking for 800s to ideally stay bid here, and then you're looking for a move up to 870, 880 here, T-Man. If we can pop this high. But 870, 880 is your target here. I totally get that. But I mean, you're up 100 points. So if you don't move your stop to break even after 100 points on NQ, um, like you don't want a trade that went 100 points uh in a direction, a positive direction, to then go negative and you don't make money on it. That's crazy. Like you might miss out on part of a move but you've captured more points than some people make in their entire day trading. You know? Are you going to be more or less sad if you let 100 points of unrealized come back down to you and stop you out for negative, or find a potential secondary entry later on? I don't know. I mean, you know yourself better. But to me, I would revenge trade a lot more if I let that trade, you know, and do whatever you need to do. This is why I like to take off half to 2/3 into my target, my liquidity target, and then try to let something run just so that I don't have that FOMO. That helps me quite a bit, but you know, we all have different ways of dealing with things. LVN holding on NQ here. 770 is ideally going to stay bid, 770, 760, but if we lose this, there's definitely potential for us to put in a new low on NQ if 770, 760 flips. We're watching to see if the offer holds there. Russell held our pivot, pushing back down into this buyer. It's the only thing that really matters at this point. Like I said, ES needs to flip above 60s for me to think that we're bullish. Russell leads here. This is our 18.7 guy. Sorry, 19.7 guy that we're retesting now. Into 20 to, let's see if Russell wants to lead down. We need to flip this guy. I'm out 1 here on ES from our hold of our zone. Pushing down again. Russell lead. Let's watch our reoffer into 20s. See if we get that continuation. There's your NQ new low off of that failure there. This is our 720-700 target. Out 2 there on ES into full target. NQ into target here as well, 720-700. Leave a runner. And then let's figure out what we're going to do next. Russell lead down. I have to delete pathing because I have to move charts. So there's your full pathing playing. No shift above our structure for the bullish move. Held our lows. Accumulated, broke down for continuation. Watching this low here. Later, to you, man. Nice job. We're probably headed down to 520 to 510 here on ES. That is my guess. This is Russell into ADR. We have a huge retest potential here into 34 to 40 on ES. Big seller stepped in there, so keep an eye on that. I didn't mean to move that. Testing into that 34 edge now. Let's see if we can defend that. For that last leg down to take out that 520. They're absorbing here on NQ so far into 700. Nothing crazy, but definitely taking in some size so far. I think we're watching 16 on RTY, 16 to 18.
Al Jazeera citing Israeli army says Givati Brigade has concluded its combat missions in southern Lebanon.
Watch this area. Again, we're watching to see if they'll absorb here into 40s on ES, but we need Russell to stop pushing up. I think 16 area is what we're probably watching. They might do it here, but I think we'll probably need to come up into this. And we're watching to see if we absorb into this and then can get back below. Or if this will hold. But I think you're waiting on Russell for the trigger. Watching Russell now at a target. It's hard for the market to put brakes on if Russell's got momentum, right? It's just is what it is. You gotta wait for it. Testing into this area now of interest. Watching to see what they do. It's the same thing here on NQ into 70s. Does it hold? Probably looking for a bid into 30s for a higher low on NQ from the 70 if this is going to do anything new. Okay. Over 70, it can rotate back up through this range. So it needs to very clearly reject if we're going to continue down with Russell as our signal. If not, then we'll flip this and then rotate back up through this range, would be my assumption. Let's see what they do here.
The Fed bids for 4-week bills total $3.2 billion.
Beautiful. Taking off my first risk here on ES.
Wall
Russell
Street Journal
was our
reports that the
leader,
US
as
dangles a
usual.
reward for opening the
NQ
Strait
into
of
first
Hormuz,
target.
but Iran isn't budging. So again, the US and Oman are looking for ways to break Iran's insistence on charging tolls for ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. The chief lever in indirect talks was a promise to unfreeze some of the $100 billion in Iranian funds held overseas. But the Wall Street Journal note that so far, Tehran isn't taking the bait. They say its military leaders are responding with a fresh round of threats against ships passing through one of the world's most trafficked waterways.
Beautiful hold on NQ with Russell as our leader, as usual. Again, I closed one
We have
on
posted
ES
the Wall Street
there.
Journal article on the feed for those interested.
Back down to our buyer here on ES into 30. Watching Russell into our low. What did I play off of? I played off of Russell. I just took ES short at 41.75 after getting stopped, and then just played it down again. This was my trigger. Pretty clear. NQ was really good as well, but I'm not trading NQ right now. NQ, and we had a very clear pivot here. This this level on NQ was based off of this profile on a chart that I have on another monitor. Look at that, a retest of our value low there on NQ at our 70s. Yeah, little Russell double bottom. I don't think it's holds. I think we continue personally, but I don't know if that's before we retest 16. I'm watching, seeing what they're gonna do. I think NQ will be our leader here. I think your biggest problem, Ben, I mean, I haven't really been talking. I've been letting Ty talk because I think it's important that other people talk other than me. But you're so scared. That's like, I mean, like that's literally your issue. You're so scared. But the problem is that like you're only scared in one direction when you take trades. Like when you
In
put a
10
trade
minutes' time
on,
now, at the top of the hour, the US is due to sell $85 billion in 4-week bills. The prior high yield was 3.61%, and the prior bid to cover was 2.74%.
you think of the potential profits, but not the potential losses. And I think that you just need to really lock in with journaling and be very selective with the positions that you're taking. And you need to be thinking that every trade that you take, that is going to be a loser. And you have to be able to willing to accept that that money that you put into the market is gone as soon as you click the button. I'm not saying that you're gonna lose, but you have to accept that that is how you position, right? You position with the understanding that there is a 99% chance that you will be wrong and that money is gone. And if you can't lose that money, then you don't take that trade, right? And this is why we want to be trading at only areas where it meets all of our criteria, because whenever we put money into the market, that money might potentially be gone. And then what we want to be doing is having a very clear target of where we want that price to go. So now we'll be much more selective with our trading because we are only going to be taking setups that meet all of our criteria, and we're only going to be trading leverage with the accepted risk that we've put on, right? I think the biggest reason why you're so scared is that you don't have a system that you've back tested. You don't, right? Like if you did, you would have an understanding of how much risk occurs. Like you need to have an understanding. Like if you can't tell me the difference between what a B setup looks like and an A+ setup looks like, I don't think that you've done enough. Right? If you can't tell the difference between what a C setup is and what an A+ setup is, I don't know if you've done enough. And because you don't have, because you can't tell, right? Because you don't have that criteria in your library, right? In your brain bank, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be very hard for you to understand when it is important to put on risk and when it is not important to put on risk. And so you're just kind of like at this neutral state where you've passed these accounts, but now you're in this, like, you're stuck. Right? You're too scared to trade. You're too scared to put on risk. And now you're just taking this net neutral approach where, you know, you buy some random trades, you sell some random trades, and your accounts are forever stuck at 25K, and you're too scared to follow through on them. And I get it. I get it. Right? I understand. But we need to solve this issue one at a time, right? We need to figure out, we have to diagnose it. We have to figure out a solution for one problem at a time, solve one problem at a time, go down the list, don't try to do everything at once, and like actually commit. Because having past accounts that are still at 25K after a year, right, that you just are too scared to blow up and too scared to trade is not a solution. It is a handicap at this point because you're too scared to initiate. You're too scared to put on risk. You're too scared that you're going to fail. It is handicapping you from actually learning and succeeding, in my opinion. Yeah, man, you gotta. That's what I've been really stressing the last couple of days of like, why are my losers consistent sizes? Well, because I know what I'm looking for, right? I know when I'm wrong. I know what my risk looks like. I know what I'm willing to risk, and I'm okay being wrong. It's part of the process, right? Like, I'm never going to be 100% right, but I know I'm not going to let a trade bleed me out to a point where I've used all my mental capital and my actual capital. So when a real setup occurs, I'm out of the fight already, right? I don't have the energy. I don't have the resources to actually
So we're
take
in
the trade I
5
wanted
time
to in
now
the
at
first
the
place.
bottom of the hour. The US is due to sell $85 billion in 4-week bills. The prior high yield was 3.61% and the prior bid to cover was 2.74.
No, I would highly encourage you to create a 30 or 90-day plan where you in the morning say, I am going to I'm willing to trade this kind of day. I think the market will be this kind of structure. If it is this structure, if I see this thing, I will look to take this. I will close my charts if I lose, X amount of trades. I will walk away. I will trade between this hour and this hour, and I will walk away. I will close my charts after that. Like, you have to set rules for yourself and have those guidelines in place before you start trading, right? And then follow suit. And then every day for 30 days, see if you can actually be disciplined and follow your rule set. That's going to give you a lot more to work off of if you can get 30 days of data where you show that you can be a disciplined trader. Not like, oh, I'm gonna hold runners and that's what I'm working on today. No, like, show me that you're able to follow your plan for 30 days in a row. Show me that you can play one setup for 30 days. I promise you, you will be so much more confident. What's about Mabasa? And I think like what you said earlier to Ty about having a larger picture and being able to see that, like that's key, man. If you're only looking at like a 30-second, a 1 minute, a 5 minute chart, whatever, any of those smaller time frame charts, and you don't have at least a 15-minute up, you are trading random noise because you have no clue what is happening, right? So it's good that you acknowledged that and saw that that actually made a difference for you. But like anytime you start to initiate, I really do believe that you need to be playing off of higher time frame levels. Those are the areas of interest where you want to be interested, where you are allowed to look at a smaller time frame chart once you have a larger time frame picture. I think it is incredibly important for you to start focusing on that so that you have more confidence in the trades that you're taking, the
Kuwait's
areas
crude
that you're
oil
taking,
production
right?
averaged 1.65 million barrels per day in June versus 578,000 barrels per day in May, according to sources familiar with the matter. Kuwait's crude oil production rose as high as 1.9 million barrels per day in the last 10 days of June, according to sources.
Think about every level I draw, every zone I draw. Why do I draw it? Well, it's based off of a higher time frame, right? It's an area of interest where I'm now watching to see what happens into. And I think it's really important because if you don't do that, right, you might get bounces at the random times on the 30-second price action. But like, remember, we're not trading the price action. We're trading the participants, right? We're trading around them. So I don't care about the random noise on the chart. I care about our interactions in zones, and then I look for interest from participants on the smaller time frames. So we want to be watching for the catalyst that's going to actually drive the action. That's the basis of our thesis always. Who's participating? Where are they participating? Are they able to succeed? Are we able? Is the effort being
So we're
rewarded?
shortly expecting the results of the US 4-week bill auction.
Right? Or are we still rejecting? Are we still absorbing where we are? Right? Like these are the things like I want you to be able to answer and create scenarios for yourself. And then you have a checklist of, well, some of my criteria is being met. Well, what does an A plus look like? Well, it's when all of your criteria is being met, right? Go back to previous days and see if you can find patterns where the same things typically play out, where someone's trapped into a swing high or something like that, right? Or we're rejecting a daily value and someone gets trapped. Like go and look for these patterns to play and then create your playbook. When we talk about creating a playbook, that's exactly what we're doing, right? We're looking back at past areas. We're seeing a common pattern, things that we can find and spot on a daily basis, right? And we are then putting those patterns into a physical library, right? First, and then once you get more and more confident at them, they will become in your mental library, right? Your brain bank, whatever you want to call it, your visual library. But like this is how you become more confident in the trades that you're taking, and it becomes an incredible filter for you to stop taking garbage trades, chop, just to trade, just to be in something, just to feel alive, right? Again, you know what to look for. You just got to get out of your own head and like let things play. And again, like I do not think that you have way too many accounts. You have so many accounts, and you have so many accounts that are not working for you, right? Like we need to figure out a system that keeps you comfortable, but is willing to actually execute. Right now, you're trapped in this like I don't even know how to explain it. You're like too scared to blow up an account, but so like you're like waiting for this moment where like you think that perfection will occur, and like perfection doesn't ever happen. You're never gonna have 100% win rate. You're never gonna be making the perfect trades and being right all the time. Like that just isn't going to happen. And so we need to figure out a way for you to confidently put on risk without tying your self-confidence to it, selling your identity, tying your identity to those accounts, right? It's not about that.
US 4-week bill high yield 3.605%, 3.605%, with a bid to cover of 2.72, 2.72. So the US here is selling $85 billion in 4-week bills, and they're rewarding 46.77% of bids at high.
All right, sorry, a little rant, but I was listening to your conversation with Ty. And I've been watching you have those Apex accounts for literally a year. But like we need to solve one problem one at a time. We need to figure out where that confidence gap is coming from. We need to it's not about like being non-emotional or being a robot, because like I mean you're always gonna have emotions. Like you can get as mechanical as you can, right? You can become as probability based as you want, but right, like that comes from practice, that comes from screen time, that comes from back testing and forward testing and understanding why and what you're trading, right? That's where like the emotional I guess rigidity, I don't know the right word here, where you can kind of like be calm, right, is because you understand what you're doing and why you're taking it and the risk that it comes with it. And I think that that's incredibly important. And without it, right, you're trading blind. You have no understanding. And I think it's one of those things that most traders refuse to do, which is understand their system, understand what they're actually looking for. And they rely incredibly on variance and their asymmetry to know if they're profitable or not, right? Something that this isn't directly at you, but it's something that I would like to put out in the air is, do you actually know if you have a winning strategy or a play that works that isn't dependent on outlier runners? Do you know if you traded 1-to-1, right, or whatever size you want, 1-to-2, if you would make money if you took off full size into that target on every single trade for 90 days, 100 days? Would you make money, or are you dependent on the random variance to actually create any sort of real value? Does your strategy work, or are you just throwing enough stones that you actually hit something? That's a question you should ask yourself. Are you just shotgunning with good risk to reward? Or do you actually have a viable strategy that makes you money with a flat RR? With a static RR, I should say. Are you at the whims of asymmetry, right, and variance?
a.m. Eastern Time, a Bank of England's man due to appear for a fireside chat at the Natixis CIB conference on private debt. But keep in mind, we did see a text release from Bank of England's man earlier, which is on the feed already. We'll let you know if they say anything new.
Why am I confident that I can take off at 1-to-1? Well, it's because I know that my strategy works over time by doing it so much, right? It's why I'm confident taking off where I'm taking off at the 1.5 and then leaving runners for that tail, because I know without it I still compound, and I've shown you that, right? And it's okay to take advantage of asymmetry, right? But I need you to understand that you are limiting yourself because you're dependent on it, right? You can refine from there, but you have to know from the get-go that you are dependent on asymmetry, and that you're probably either don't have as much edge as you thought you did, right? Or your edge is dependent on a few outlying trades that actually give you your profitability, right? And understanding that is the first step. Because if you don't know that and you continue to try things and you think it's probability based instead of that asymmetry in the variance of the actual market, right? Like that's a very different style of trading. It's a very different thing that you're doing. And I think it's really important for a lot of you to understand what and where, like, what are we actually trading? Are we trading just asymmetry of risk and like just shotgunning? Like it's a viable thing that happens, but it's very different than having a playbook with a setup that actually makes you money, right? On a static, right? On a very a linear path, I should say. It's something that you will only be able to find out via backtesting, right? If you can find a strategy that makes you money at a flat RR over time, and then you're able to then have asymmetry on top of that with a runner, right? Now you're really fucking cooking. If you can make money just by having a flat probability-based strategy where you know that if you take this trade, it goes to this point, right? I make money going into my first target, and over time, I am profitable. I have a high enough win rate, and my RR is good enough on that base static trade that I will be able to compound just off of that. That is your foundation of your model. From there, you then are able to then scale out with a runner that you leave open that then creates that continuation, right? That potential for that asymmetry, for that continuation play. That's what scales you. The first thing you do is compound, have a way to survive, right? Have a trading plan that isn't dependent on variance, because not every trade's going to work, right? So if you're dependent on having that one winner that's going to carry your account, and if you have multiple losers in a row, and now you're dependent on that big trade that's going to push you back up, right? Instead of just a system that works over time. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see why that matters? Because sometimes you lose multiple trades in a row, and that sucks, right? But if you have a system that's completely dependent on you having a Hail Mary, that's not a way to continue to grow that account. This is why we get emotional. You're a little confused on the asymmetry part. Okay, I totally can help you. I totally can help you. So when I talk about asymmetry, I'm talking about this. This is our P&L from yesterday. What do you notice in our P&L from yesterday? What do we notice about most of our trades? Pretty equal risk to reward there on most of our trades, right? So I already know that I'm a profitable trader by just taking my risk to reward a flat RR. I know that even without these outliers, I am a successful trader based off of the strategy that I use because I win more than I lose with a flat RR. How do I make big money though? By having the ability to hold runners that are asymmetrical to my risk to reward, right? They are my outlier trades that when they run, they give me the big bucks. But without them, I'm still profitable overall. I have a flat risk to reward here where I'm taking off first profits, I'm scaling, I'm compounding my account and allowing it to grow at a trajectory that looks like this over time. But I'm going to have outliers that are on the winning side because I have a flat risk, but I have a asymmetrical reward where price can continue up because I trail my runner. Right? So I have a locked risk, but I have an unlimited upside just like with an option because I trail my runner and I let my runner work for itself. But without it, I'm still okay, right? Some days we don't get runners. Some days we don't do what great. But with this model, I know that I am successful even when that doesn't happen. That's what I mean by that. I'm not dependent on this outlier. It's awesome when it happens, but I'm not dependent on it. Right? This is why this matters, because this is another day this week that I think is really important. And this is the only reason I brought it up. I really don't like to post stuff like this, but I think it's important for you guys to understand why I'm talking about what I'm talking about. This was another day where I really struggled in the midday. What's the difference between this P&L and this P&L? Well, we're still maintaining our same risk to reward here, but a lot more sells, a lot more losers in the midday, right? So we had some outliers. That's good. That helped us. That buffered our account, which is what we needed. But because I lost multiple trades in a row here, we lost a lot of money on our curve, right? It wasn't a straight line up. Our curve wasn't just this. It looked like this, and then it looked like this. But we then leveled out because we're still maintaining our risk to reward. And then we were good again, right? But I'm not, my losers are staying consistent. My winners are staying consistent. And I know over time that I will make money because I know that this system is a viable one over time. I have a win rate that makes sense within a system that is probabilistic to actually play out. And I am not dependent on this runner, right? These bigger winners to actually succeed. I'm able to claw my way back. No problem. As long as I stick to my rules, stick to my system, don't let these things bleed me out to death. Right? You only, this only makes sense if you understand why you're trading, why your risk is what it is, right? If you can see and know why you're playing what you're playing, right? It is so important. And then like when you get outliers, right? And that's what I was saying before to T-Man is like, I'm not letting a trade that I'm up 100 points on go negative on me. It's either break even or we're taking profit on it. I'm not letting my unrealized or my realized gains go away. I'm fine playing around with some unrealized. That's okay because it's part of my risk model. Because again, I'm letting my runner run and try to do work for me. If it's within, if I've already taken off my main risk, which is within this right box, right? I'm willing to allow an asymmetrical potential on my last runner to try to play for that continuation. Because I've already taken off half to 2/3 of my position within this box, right? So we're already profitable on the trade. I know regardless I make money on it, and that allows me to be way less stressed out and allow things to play out to full target because I've already secured profits. You need to figure out a system that works for you. And some people would say that I'm an idiot for doing this and that I could have had runners that went all the way up to here on all of these trades. But like that's not viable for me. I would lose my mind if I was full size for full positioning. I can't do that. I know I can't do that. I know I do not have the mental capacity to play that system. Some people would be like, some people on Twitter have even called me an idiot for trading like this. But I know that I am not dependent on variance to make money. And that to me is the most important thing. Because that allows me to not panic, which is all I need. It's my coping mechanism, right? Figure out what works for you. Figure out your system. Figure out what makes you what you're comfortable in, right? What makes you confident, and trade your system. Trade your areas. Trade your ideas. Right? Trade your plan, the things that you develop that is going to keep you disciplined. If you don't know why you're taking a trade, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, it's going to be very hard for you to be disciplined because you don't even know the first step, right? The first reason. How are you gonna be disciplined around something that you don't, that isn't your action? All right. I don't know. I'm fine doing rants like these, but like you actually need to follow through on some of the things that we talk about here, because at the end of the day, right, like that's the only thing that'll actually create real change for you is, right, like being willing to uh actually try it, right? Attempt. Like you have to be the one that wants to do this. There's no one in the world that can motivate you to actually like want to do this. Like this is like going to the gym, right? Or exercising or dieting, like or quitting smoking, right? Like you have to fucking want it, man. And then you have to like it's real work. Like it sucks. Like having to battle and like deal with like your personal struggles and actually be like, I want to change. I want to fix this. And then go out of your way to then try to then, get past that thing. It's really hard, man. It's a personal struggle. It's a personal battle that you have to be willing to be like, yeah, like I'm sick of it. I'm sick of this. You have to be sick of it, right? To actually create that change. And so like we can talk about this stuff over and over and over again, but like until you're sick of it, and you're like, all right, fuck, like I actually have to do this. If I'm gonna take this seriously, I've gotta do this thing. Like that's the only time it's going to happen, right? When you're like sick of it yourself, you're disgusted with yourself and your actions, and you're like, fuck it. I'm too fat. I'm sick of not being able to walk up a staircase because I smoke so much, right? Like whatever the thing is, or I'm sick of blowing up accounts over and over again from the same issue. I know how to solve this problem, but I'm unwilling to. I'm too scared to actually try to create change. I know it'll be a lot of work, right? I know this thing is bothering me, and that I continue to do the same pattern, but dealing with that is scary, and I don't want to have to do that work. I don't want to have to actually like confront that myself, right? Like you have to if you're going to make change, or it's going to continue to happen. And until you're willing to like put on that, it's going to keep happening. It just is what it is. And if you're unwilling to do that change, right, for yourself, then you should just quit trading, because it's never going to change, right? You might as well just put your money in something else. Like you have to have that honest conversation with yourself as like, am I willing to actually do this or not? Because if the answer is no, right, like just stop. This edge on ES is so important, because a failure here, look at the gap that we have to back down. Testing into that previous day value now. Sorry, I didn't mean to kill the vibe, but let's see if we can get anything else. I have one runner left from 41.75 on ES. We just hit 1,000 per contract here into our 520. This is the London low on ES. Watching to see if Russell can do a full rotation down to our lows to give us the oscillation. That'd be sick if we could do something like this for the full move. But understand we're at target here on ES. I'm watching to see if Russell will give us this leg down so that we get new lows on NQ and ES as well with this oscillation on Russell. Very clear someone taking in size at 34s on ES. I think that that'll probably be our retest as we push back into this guy. 34 to 30. And then we look to see if we can then head down maybe to like, I don't know, 510 from our 20. We'll see. So it'll be dependent on if Russell holds our halfway back here at 16.
So we are shortly expecting the Freddie Mac mortgage rates. US 30-year fixed-rate mortgages averaged 6.43% in the July second week, which is down from the 6.49% in the prior week. That's according to Freddie Mac. The 15-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 5.79%.
Sell side really trying to step on gas here into our lows at 640. See if we can flip this. We need Russell follow through here off of our failure at 16s again. ES held our 29 offer that we have drawn. Watching to see if we can actually take out lows or if they'll continue to trap down here. If Russell can get this follow through, then we get the moves on NQ and ES, in my opinion, because then we'll get the full oscillation. But if it continues to just do nothing here, it's going to be very hard to get that next leg. I'd like to see 560 on NQ from this 640 flip. And ES, we're looking for them to take out that 520 London low for a rotation down to like 514, 512, I don't know, 510. Just into this if we can get the flip. But we need that Russell follow through with NQ here. Not sure if it's ready yet. Find out soon. And see them trying to step on the gas here. We'll watch the reoffer if they don't just do it immediately. London low just taken on ES. Russell follow through happening now. I'm out one here from NQ, or sorry, on ES from our 40s, and I'm just in my runner now from our reoffer here at 30. Watching Russell as we push down into this low. So a retest of our edge here on NQ.
The Nasdaq 100 extends its drop now to 1.5%.
Watch 14 here again on Russell. See if we'll get a lower high into 14 to 17. We're looking for absorption, and then one more leg down if we're going to do it. As we pop back into our 40s here on our edge on NQ, looking for that offer with Russell lost momentum here if they're going to continue this. Again, we've taken out our low on ES and NQ there. We've trapped into that after stopping people out. Now watching to see if Russell can get that follow through, if we're going to get a continuation off of that move, or if this is just going to be a trap and then a rotation back through. We don't know yet. I don't use Russell footprint. I just use the delta profile for Russell. All I have on my my Russell chart here. I'll show you my Russell chart right now. This is my entire Russell chart on Tradeify. It's the 30-second opening range, a VWAP, one delta bubble that's printed today, and then the delta VP on the side. So when I'm talking about that, I'm looking at this area here where we saw this absorption, right? These buyers, a lot of effort, not a lot of ability to do anything with it. So I saw this guy. This was our big flip, right? When we originally saw that guy. And then we're now seeing them try to step down here into this 14 to 17. So what I'm watching for is the sell side going to now hold that lower high into this? And then can we take out lows for the full oscillation like that based off of the flip here? That's all my Russell chart is. And then I just make the levels on TradingView. And you see that 14, right? That's this here. So that's all it is. And then I just look for oscillations based off of price action, yeah. Or you can just like throw a fixed range on it. We'll do the same thing, right? Very clear. The two biggest tools that I use are just like VWAP with our deviations, which you can see it's very light. These are our VWAP deviations. This is a halfway back, so it's taking a measured move of the last 15 minutes, and it creates a box showing if we're holding above or below the halfway of the last 15-minute candle. That's what this white box is. And then I just look at it as like an oscillator basically between our VWAP, and then if are we holding above or below the last, yeah, nothing crazy. Again, I don't trade Russell. I just use it as an oscillator for, because when we get reactions at our edges on Russell, we get big moves on NQ and ES. we get reactive areas because we have the market then moving together, right? When relief comes in a Russell-led market, or when Russell is the leader in the weakness, we wait for the leader in the weakness to come to a pivot where it will have some relief, and then that gives the rest of the market some relief. That's basically the idea. It's like the same thing if like maybe a year ago, Apple was that for us, right? Apple was the largest stock, and then it was Tesla. We were using Tesla and Apple as our kind of our leader, and we are playing off of the pivots there, and then using then playing NQ and ES around that, because when those stocks got relief and they were so heavily weighted in the indexes, they caused an outsized move. And because NQ and ES are a better leveraged vehicle, we would trade that for those bounce points to gain more points. Right, so it's the same thing, but Russell has been very powerful lately because of financials and energy, right? Those sectors which are heavily embedded in RTY. Whereas like NQ doesn't, it's like mostly tech, right? ES is a good mix, but like RTY has a lot of like regional financial energy names, healthcare. So like when those stocks are also pushing with tech, it's like, oh, okay, the whole market's in agreement, we can go up. Or it's like, oh, okay, we're going down because we have a mixed market and I don't want to trade then because it's too wishy-washy for me. Or it's like, oh, everything's going down together. Okay, well, that makes more sense. I can be confident that the whole market wants to continue to push down, and we can then take trades more confidently. Our probability to make money within, the time frame that we want is much more likely to play out if the whole market is in agreement rather than if we have a diverging index. Right? It's just like it gives you clarity. When everything's pushing down together, it's much easier to trade. When everything's pushing up together, it's much easier to trade. When things are mixed, it fucking sucks. That's what when we want to avoid it. Can you still make money in those markets? Yes. Is the opportunity as high? No. Right? So why do it? Our A+ setup is when we have full market confluence, right? Any setup that doesn't have full market confluence is not an A+ setup, in my opinion. For me.
Trump administration and Anthropic have not discussed the government taking stakes in the firm, according to sources familiar with the matter.
Russell did its full oscillation. NQ couldn't get to target, sadly. ES couldn't get to target either off of that, but we are retesting our highs. So because Russell's done a full oscillation while I was yapping, we are watching to see if there's weakness again into these highs. Now that NQ and ES are also testing our edges once again. Let's see if we lose momentum here again on Russell or if it's going to do something new. Just oscillations in balance as we come into our midday. Failure to get that continuation down. But still just balance, no change. Another thing that you can, I mean, there's a video on our YouTube, Ali, that you might be interested in that's very similar to the Russell idea, but with tick as a breadth vehicle. Tick is basically the total amount of stocks in the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ that are on a uptick or downtick at any given point, and it creates an oscillator out of it. And you can use that also to help your entries, to let you know when things make sense to try, right? Are things overbought? Are they oversold based off of the overall movement of the index? It's something that we used to use quite a bit. I don't use it as much these days because I think Russell is good enough with the levels that we get. But it's the same idea. That video, I talk about the RTY as well and Tick, but those are both vehicles that you can use to help you with your entries and exits. It's like, is the market moving together, right? Are we at an area that makes sense to actually be initiating a trade, or does it not meet full criteria? It's like a 15-minute video on YouTube. So I don't remember the name. I think it's just like market divergence or something. I don't know. But it's crazy because like I think a lot of people overcomplicate things, but that's like one of the easiest and like most basic, simple like rules that you can add to your system that will like immediately increase your profitability, in my opinion. Like, yeah, no shit, the market move, like when the market's moving together, price is easier to trade. Like, yeah, of course, duh, right? But it's not one of those things that you actually consider when you're looking for an entry. But it should be, because like, why wouldn't you? Like, if yeah, of course. Like when you actually think about it, like, oh, wait, yeah, that makes sense. If things are trending together, we're gonna get smoother movement. Huh. Russell, top of our oscillation, weakness across the market, balance continues to maintain. No change. Watching our halfway back on RTY, that white box, to see if we'll get that higher low for a shift or if we're going to do the full oscillation. NQ still just battling with this 40 to 50 edge of our value here, of our box that we're trading in, or trying to establish outside of, I should say.
The Bank of England are to limit debt that hedge funds can use to buy gilts. That's according to the Times. So in this, the Bank of England again is pushing ahead with plans to limit the amount of debt that hedge funds can take on when buying UK government bonds. Policymakers, worried about financial stability risks, are acting on hedge funds' participation in gilt trading after their holdings expanded to about 30% of transactions in the £3 trillion market. Bank of England's man says loosening in financial conditions since June will be important for my rate vote at the next meeting.
full rotation here on ES from our failure to get above that high. Russell holding our oscillation. NQ full oscillation from 40 to 50 back down to lows. No change. Just balance outside of value. Trying to build outside, right? There's our rotation down with Russell weakness, pushing into our target here on NQ, 560. Beautiful. Hold of our lows as resistance. Russell follow through. ES follow through now. I am taking off 1 here on ES into 15s from our 25 high. Just right in range rotation. Watch to see if we get this hold below our value, just like on NQ. Same trade, right, with this value holding. Watch to see if we'll do something similar here on ES. And we're watching our lows here on Russell to see if we get another bounce or if this will shift below. Right, again, we're just trading in this value. We're watching to see if RTY will lead down. We knew that there was a lot of potential for for ES and NQ to make new lows if Russell continued to oscillate, right? We were looking for that weakness into these highs for this rotation down. Remember what we talked about? NQ weakness here, Russell top of oscillation will lead us down to this target on NQ as soon as we get this downside leg, right? That's what just happened. Same thing. We might need to do one more rotation for this to play out on ES if RTY can't get the breakdown here. I'd like to see this breakdown and then we not have to do that. But again, that was the idea. It's a Russell oscillator, weakness established at highs. Look for the follow through for the next leg on NQ and ES if those are making lower highs while RTY trades sideways, right? We use that as a oscillator, weakness into highs for next leg on NQ and ES. Again, this is target 60 to 20 here on NQ as we push down. Don't really have a great target on ES. Like I said before, it's a bit hard because we have so much room potentially in this LVN. I think maybe 505.75 or 495.75 would be good targets if we can get like our actual breakdown. But we have to actually like establish there. $505.75 is an unfinished auction.
US stocks extend full with the Nasdaq now down 1%.
Again, 560 was target here on NQ. A bit of bounce from that. Russell testing lows. ES came into first PT. Watching our edge here on retest. Seeing if we'll get that continuation or if we are going to need to do another full oscillation on Russell. Unsure. I don't know yet. I mean, I think that see, it's hard because I think we'll probably defend it in Globex, if that makes sense. Like I think we can tag through it, but we'll just reclaim it into Globex. I don't know if it'll have real meaning. God, I really need to go through all my indicators that I have favorited. So much garbage in here. It's so hard to find anything. Russell took out lows there. Really important. Yes, pushing down. Again, 505.75 is my target here. If we can get this hold. We held our balance there at our 520. Good rejection. Pushing down. Very similar to NQ, just playing out slower, right? We already got this NQ test here at 40 to 50 on our balance edge from our fixed range profile that we put on for the range trade. Very clear break, hold of our range, and then push down. We're now doing the same thing on ES. Hold of our range low, acceptance outside of value, and now the willingness to push down. We just need Russell follow through for that continuation to play. That is the important thing. As long as Russell continues to fade, we have the ability to keep going. Especially with NQ weakness as well. We have also another unfinished auction at 95.75, 495.75. $800 contracts at 505 on the DOM on ES. Just showing. Watching Russell retest our lows. ES into next target, or sorry, NQ into next target here at 5 to 520, bouncing. So this 560 to 520 needs to flip for more. So watch our Russell retest of our edge. See if we get some more continuation down, or if this is up. Look at our Russell chart. Like when we understand that that's our pivot, because we can see the amount of effort to reward there on our delta, right? It's just like such a helpful way to be like, oh yeah, like we're probably going to keep going down. No ability to push through that, right? There it is. That's unfinished auction, 505.75 target. Next target is 95.75 if we push below that. But this is our primary target off of our failure at 20s on ES. Move stops down, take some risk off. Let's see if we continue pushing down. Russell still has momentum, so I have my stop at 95.75, moving, or sorry, I have my target at 95.75, moving my risk down here. Or sorry, my stop.
The Nasdaq 100 index extends decline now to 2%.
Big bid there. Big take. On ES. Big take. I really need to turn off grids on this chart. It's so messy. That's our 800 lots that was showing before at 505. They just got taken.
ECB's President Lagarde says certain ECB made the right choice raising rates in June.
I'm flat here. I'm happy with that. Right into our target.
ECB's President Lagarde currently speaking in an interview. Lagarde says the majority of policymakers were ready to hike in April.
Big.
And Lagarde adds the supply shock is spreading through the economy.
That auction's now finished. That you can see that level disappeared now that we've taken it. So I will delete this now that that PT has been met.
Lagarde says second round effects have not materialized today.
So this is what that level was, Sauce. I just closed my last short, personally. Just waiting now. Might be done trading, we'll see. Some good size coming in here on ES at 12s. Offer trying to defend. New 15th just opened. Watching Russell here, see if we'll hold our pivot for continuation down now that we are back to our balance low. If we can hold this, it'll be the same idea as before, where we're just going to be defending our auction low, right, as resistance. Just got to watch our halfway back to see if we'll get back in for upside or if we'll hold and be able to continue downwards. If we can, then we can keep going down, but I'm guessing that this is going to have to settle, right, finalize and figure out what it wants to do before we continue onwards. Uh, 500 showing on the Dom at 12 still on ES. Pretty clear LVN above us in that, where they'll try to defend. Basically watching like 12 to 16 on ES to see if we'll hold that. See if Russell can hold as well. Nothing from me, just waiting to see how we interact with these levels, if we absorb, and if we then rotate off of it. But this is just watching that LVN. Big buyer trying here still at 12's got taken. I mean, that might have been worth. I'm gonna try like a stop at 1375 and just try with one here and see if we can scale in or if I'm gonna get stopped out. I'm unsure. They're trying to take in here, so we'll see. I might get faked out. It'll be all right. I'm only one contract, 250 points or $250. Watching. Might be a little early. RTY weakness isn't happening yet.
In 10 minutes time now, at the top of the hour, we see the release of the weekly Baker Hughes rig count numbers. Total rigs saw a prior read of 573, oil rigs a prior of 440.
This is your first risk off on ES and NQ if you're playing this as a pivot, like we talked about, into 506, 503. See if we get some continuation. Has to get below 503 for more. There's a big buyer sitting at that 503, 505. That's where we took off our short, remember? But they took in some lots there. So that's your current flip that we need to do. See if we get Russell follow through. It's just balanced right now, nothing crazy. But it was a good area where they took in. Doesn't mean that anything's changed yet, unless we have Russell follow through though. Remember that. I can still get easily stopped out here.
in 5 minutes time now at the top of the hour. We're expecting the weekly Baker Hughes rig count numbers. Total rigs are a prior of 573, while oil rigs are prior of 440.
If you're playing off of the NQ pivot here at our 520s, this is your first risk off into 460, into our rebid reversal line here. Same thing with ES into our edge from our 12s into 505. Got to flip below 503s for more. This is where the bid rests. So I took off a little size here, took off 2 of my contracts. I have 1 runner left. Again, 1375 was my stop. I did not get stopped there. So absorption held, and we were able to get a really solid entry identifying that absorption, looking for 495.75 as target if we can get this break below 503s and sweep. You can move your stops down or keep it, whatever you, I mean, do whatever you want. I mean, it's up to you. The trade's really free. It's new low on ES. There's a buyer that will be looking to defend, that sellers will try to defend at 504, 505, right? A retest from the other side where that guy took in those lots. So we'll just watch that as our pivot as we come back. See if Russell can get the full move down to its most recent low for the secondary leg on ES. Up to you. Buyer showing at 40s so far on NQ.
Shortly expecting the US Baker Hughes rig count numbers.
Trying to like get this out of the way so I can see price. Same thing on ES. See if they offer into this. We'd love to see them try to absorb into this like 50, 500, 504 area on ES, and we will look for Russell to lose momentum here. I don't really see anything on NQ other than we'll look to defend like 480. Probably would be my assumption, like these previous lows. This new 15's opening now. Just watch to see if we defend that sweeper down, basically. Nice, man. Be glad to have you. Pretty clear take there on footprint. You can see buyer got absorbed into that 500,
Baker Hughes
504.
total rigs 580, which is a gain of 7 rigs in total.
And we're
And
pushing
oil
into
rigs at
target now.
445, 445, showing 5 of those to be oil rigs.
Yeah, just got filled. Huge. That's the trade. There it is. If you've got the ability to hold a runner, you can go for it. I was just looking for Russell to get that lower high and then that push into our bottom there. And this is our unfinished auction finish at 95.75 for me. So if you have the ability to hold a runner, go for it. You know, move stops down. I filled there. That was a beautiful absorption play. Bid is showing at 490 on ES on Dom. So potentially some follow through there. I just want to walk through this a little bit based off of what we're seeing here and why I was willing to take a risk there. So like I said, I put my stop at that 1375, just above this high when I got in here. As soon as we started to see these participants for the lower high after seeing this sweep to the downside. So I just started to fill here, and my risk was just this wick high right above, right there at that 1375. I just added because we saw them take in some pretty large size here, and I was just looking for us to head back down to that 95.75 auction completion. And then again, we were looking at that 504, 500, 504 area because we saw these buyers here, right? This was our previous bid. So I was looking for them to get taken in, which we can see that blue delta there, right? That's a buyer that got taken in into that for that secondary leg down. And we got that Russell weakness. So again, we were just playing, this is our secondary move after we got our first PT here at 505. We closed. We then waited for a new setup. What's the new setup? Well, we've hit my target. I'm now seeing sellers step in, looking to engage and initiate again. I'm looking for them to absorb into this area. So I see sell side start to show. I see buy side get taken in. I'm seeing big contracts, right? 600 lots, 200 lots. So I'm now willing to play off of this wick high for, you know, a couple point loss into that high, understanding that if we break, we'll probably head up and it'll be a good risk to reward. What I'm looking for is Russell follow through, right? I'm looking for the market to continue to absorb here, and I'm looking for us to then play down to our target. Right? That's the setup. That's the risk. So that's how we re-entered as soon as we established that that's where our pivot was. And we were starting to see that failure to reward the amount of effort that was being exerted there. And that is a good scalp. And again, if you have runners, it's a beautiful trade. I just didn't. I had one contract left. But this is great. This is ADR on ES. This is your full rotation into our higher time frame pivot here into our 500 to 470. So I don't know what happens here. But I'm out of targets and my plan is played. So I'm good to go. Personally, and again, this is all about Russell follow through. We got our rejection of our balance. We then are able to continue down. We get the lower high. We get the continuation. And we're playing off of these failures to establish back inside, right? This is a very clear, it's the same trade on all of the markets. We played the rejection. Oops. Like, think about what we just did. It was a balanced or consolidation that we then failed to get back into, right? We established below, outside of it. We then pushed down, right? And then we continued on our way. That was the play on ES. It was the play on Russell as well. A failure to get back inside value, a rotation down. It's the same thing on NQ. A failure to establish back inside value, and then a rotation down, and then we look for that lower high, and then that continuation and secondary move, right? Just rotations. That's your 410 target on NQ. This is ADR for me. I'm probably done for the day. I'm not looking for anything over our ADR target on ES personally. But maybe you get continuation. You can hold runner if you want. But to me, this was the move and its completion. You do this mobile with Freeport markets. I don't know what that means. I think you're a bot. But like, check this out, just from like a perspective of if you wanted to just put it from like volume profiles, no delta, nothing. Like, look at where we're holding on these candles. Use the same logic as like the 15-minute time frame. Are we holding above or below POC? Right? What's happening in this move down? Where's like the current rotation, and how do we find these rotations? Well, like, to me, I see. Let me turn off our sessions indicator here, just so you can get a good view, right? Like, I see a consolidation here, boom, right? I see a consolidation here, boom. These are our two regions that we played off of today. Do you see where we have like mixed POCs, mixed value, where we create a very clear D profile? Oops, I did not mean to move that. What we're looking for is just like acceptance outside. So we are waiting for someone to be trapped above, right? We're looking for a clear shift from these highs. We have a shift of value starting to occur, where we have a participant outside of value. We have clear bids at our lows. We have buyers trying at our highs, but failing, right? POC is shifted. That's what this yellow line is. We have then our new candle opening at POC of our previous. So value is shifting down slowly. We're seeing POC move to the mid from the highs. We're then seeing our next candle open outside of value, right? And we're now defending this value low as resistance on this new candle open, right? So we're seeing sell side, and we have a very clear tail here. So what we're seeing is acceptance outside of this balance. We have a clear showing of participants outside. We have a clear step down, and very clear seller stepping in to this rotation down. So we have a shift now. Now we're in a trend. So we've broken out of the consolidation, and now we're holding this for our push down, right? This gives you a really nice play from here to here until we close in that POCs here. This is your first like sign of like, oh, okay, maybe I should get out short term, is when POC closes down here. You're like, oh, fuck, okay, maybe we have a shift. Because what does that mean? Well, buyers are now in our lows, right? So we're not holding POC as resistance anymore, right? This gives you two opportunities to look for plays like this, where we're watching for the break. So there's one, and then the open of the new candle. There's two, the rotation down into that. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for that expansion outside. And then we have the same thing that happens again. So, oops. We have another consolidation where we have flat POCs, right? Flat value. Value is inside. We have inside candles. What we know is that we have a participant who is outside, right? That POC into the low. And we know that we have a very clear tail here into our highs, where we have this flat POC from the sell side that's defending, right? Value is holding these highs. So we're unable to show interest above. That's what I'm trying to get at here. we're unable to show what we need, which would be a hold of that value high for a pushback up. What we're seeing is a failure to establish that on every candle, right? We're failing to push above very clear value at those highs. Let me turn off drawings just so you can see that a bit clearer. Right, we're failing to establish value above this POC to value here from the sell side down, right, at the top of this consolidation. No interest above. And so we're seeing then a new open, a push down below that low, and now we're holding that low as resistance. This is that 500, 505 area where we were just playing, right? That's this. So we're failing, and now we're holding where those buyers were before. Remember, this is that big buyer that we saw come in and take. That was this guy that I mentioned of why I exited. This is this guy stepping on the gas. So I closed my position there because we saw them, we identified them. That's this guy here. We waited for a retest of these highs and for someone to get absorbed up here. That's this. That's this. And then we are playing this down with the understanding that we'll get follow through as soon as we sweep through this guy. And then we play the next target. That's the move between you looking at your profiles and then also having like the order flow on top of it. But like this is that. This is our pivot where we created from that. I don't know. Hopefully like that makes sense. But it's just like waiting for these breakdowns and then trading the continuation, right? Like trend hasn't shifted. It's just consolidation. We're still going down and shorting all day. Nothing to do other than look for continuation until we see a right side of V. Same thing on ES, right? Sorry, on NQ. Look at our pivots. Again, it's the whole understanding of consolidation and the breakdown here. What happens into these highs? What happens here? This is so important for you to be able to see. What happens here? Compared to this, what are we doing here? Value attempted to shift, right? Look at this POC up into the highs here. Look at this shift of value that tried to attempt to happen. POC was here, POC was here, right? So we've got this build. And then look, what do the buyers try to do? They try to hold and they fail. And then we shift down and sweep because now these guys are stuck off sides, right? POC to value above and then failed. And then new candle opens, we rotate the entire value structure here, maintaining this edge and then rotating down into this low. And then after that, what happens? Well, we then maintain that low as resistance for continuation at the bottom of our end of this consolidation, right? We then hold this POC as resistance for the continuation down. What's a good way to establish if we're in trend or not? Well, we're holding POC of our previous candle, right? We're holding that value structure. So now that we've established outside and we're holding that low, now we're cooking, right? Now we're rotating down and now you have trend continuation so that you can stay in this trade, right? We're holding that POC to value of our previous candle. We're holding it as offer and we're continuing down. That's when you know that you've got that breakdown. That's trend. When do we establish a potential shift that's happened? Well, the next candle opens above value of the previous candle, right? That's a good sign of being like, oh, I should get out for right now. So when we see a big take like this, and then we close outside of value like that, and then the new candle opens and then maintains that value, that's a potential sign that these guys are trapped, right? And that the buyers are now initiating here at the value of the previous candle. So this is how you get that right side of V idea. Where are we looking to trade? Well, we're looking to transition back to where our breakdown was, right? This is that POC to value of our previous candle. This is just our high. Are we able to establish above that high? No, right? So we're taking in size, we're taking in size, we're taking in size. We're unable to push above. We shift and we rotate back down to where? Well, that buyer that was here, right? We're just rotating back down to this POC where that buyer was. But why does this matter? Well, this is the range. This is where we've identified two participants, right? We've identified this seller and this buyer. What does that create? Well, that creates our consolidation, right? That's our footprint. That's our value area. So if we put a fixed range on this consolidation, right? What do we get? Well, there it is, right? So we're looking for failures at this top edge, right? We're looking for that shift of value just like we did on ES. And then what happens into the low? Get our breakdown off of that failure to establish above. We hold the POC and then we start to rotate, right? And then we do this consolidation again. And now it's just another matter of, okay, we got our leg down, we got our breakdown out of that balance. What are we doing now? Okay, well, we just established the same thing again, right? We have a clear buyer into this low. This is our pivot on our bottom. We have a clear seller here into our high, right? This is our new range. We now wait for an offside participant and we look for a breakdown. You can do the same thing, put a fixed range on it, and you're good. Boom, right? So it's just like we now have our two value edges and we know where we need to look above and hold. And we know that this is our offside participant outside of value above. This is our offside participant outside of value below. We're looking for either a hold of this and a shift back up for the right side of V, or we're looking for a fade, a failure, a rotation down, and then a continuation below, right? Those are our two setups. If not, we fade edges because it'll continue to consolidate. Right. Yeah, it's already linked. This is one of the chart books that I have linked for you. Yeah, this is the ES3 pane. I've repurposed it to be a NQ and ES 5-minute. Fits the pinned chart. And that's our bid into our lows on our higher time frame, right? Boom. So that's your rotation through that LVN. That's why we took off. I don't know what happens down here. Zero clue. But that's why it was our target. And now we sit there and wait. I might be cooking with this. Failed breakout on high, above, breakdown establishes, push. Then we get a POC test off of our developing POC, rejection here, off of some absorption. They then maintain our daily POC, which now is anchored to the side. A rotation down to fresh liquidity. For the price ladder one, the volume profile version. I think ES is 1 tick per row and NQ is what, like 5 or 3? Yeah. All of this is just profile and then it's total instead of delta, right? Delta is showing you that breakdown, whereas this is just a volume profile per bar. I'm so glad TradingView added that. because you can use these, you can reference now these as a calculation via the footprint call. You couldn't do any of that before. It was all private, but now you can reference it all, so it's sick. Yeah, that's exactly what I do now. So like on I reference these back and forth because I think the 5 is good because it breaks down our 15-minute candles into 3 candles, so you can get a good feel for like what's going to happen, right? I like that logic of the breakdown of into 3 little auctions of our main auction. But if you use like a 10-minute chart, I think using the 3-minute would be fine as a reference as well. 3 looks good for NQ. This is I've got this on another monitor right now for testing. This is one of my other things that I'm testing right now. But this is a 3-minute version of the same thing. But this looks pretty clean. But it might be too noisy for some of you. So I think 5 is probably good. But like I feel like 3 is pretty easy to like see these guys and see these lows. Be like, oh, okay. I just have NQ on the 3. I haven't looked at anything else. This is for a specific indicator that I'm working on a 3-minute. So I just have it up like this off monitor because it's looking for this kind of stuff. Let me turn off. I gotta work on this one. It's not taking enough trades. I don't have enough data yet. But this is a work in progress. My main focus right now is the footprint. I think the footprint has by far the most potential. I've now created like a full regime for it with like targets, trends, our IB extensions, our unfinished auction identification system. Our shape is even here. 2 auctions, double distribution. Developing value on the side. Regime with the developing value. LVNs created. So it's also finding LVNs and then putting them on the chart like that for potential reoffers. I don't know if that's, I have to go back and look. I was up to like 5 a.m. working on this context and state part of it last night. And then another thing that I'm working on with that 3-minute, check this out. Again, like the trade idea isn't completed, but the logic for, look at this. We can set windows. So you like I can set this and then it'll block out this period and then it won't show any trades from that time. But also like I'm only like if I know my edge is 9:30 to 11:30 or something like that, I can then make that my window to look for plays and then it'll only signal fire in that area. And then same thing for like, 3 to 4. And then it'll block out that period of time for me on a daily basis. So then it blocks this out and then it'll still show me potential signals, but it won't actually produce them in the strategy viewer. So then like only signals that fire outside of our within our period, our golden hours or whatever you want to call it, will print. I'm working on that still, but I like that as a proof of concept for a lot of you because the more conversations we have about risk to reward and all of that, and the psychology, the more I'm noticing that I should be dedicating most of my time to creating automated ways for you to deal with things that you don't want to deal with. So if I can just like
Germany Chancellor
create your
Merz
risk
says
reward
reform
table on the
package could
chart,
lift German 2027 GDP to at least 1%.
I think that would help a lot of you, where it's like, oh, like if I have if I can calculate your risk, right, and I can calculate your where you do well, where you don't do well, what that would cost you if you took that trade, right, the win rates for a certain period, and I can put that in a table for you, you're much more likely to stop trading if you have the data in front of your eyes at all times. And in my opinion, at least, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but if you know that your win rate dramatically goes down during that period, you'd probably be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't look for anything. It's not worth it. That's at least the concept. So like this is a we were talking about like win rate strategies. This is a low win rate but high RR strategy. So like this has a 35% win rate, but it is incredibly profitable. Same thing with this is longs only. I think this is shorts only, but it's just looking for 3R minimum. It doesn't count as a win unless we get 3R. So it's like, it's fine. You can have like win rate strategies like that that are really low if you're targeting a higher R. But if you're not targeting a higher R, then you need to have just clear you then would have to trade something like this, which is like high R, high win rate, but low R. So it's like a high win percentage, 83%, but the reward is pretty minimal. Right, because we're just like playing like the break of IB or like 2 IB high. So like these have like a very high win percentage strategy, where like this is your risk, but like our reward isn't huge. But because the probability is high, we can take these trades into target and be comfortable with the risk because we have an 80% chance of actually for it to play out. So the RR is smaller, but you know, usually it's like 1-to-1 or 1.5-to-1. But the probability is high. So it's like you have to figure out like what's your strategy? Like what are you trying to do? Right? Like these play, but that's your one trade of the day then. And then you leave. And if it doesn't set up, it doesn't set up. Right? Like this would be a stop out that didn't do anything. Failed break above. It's a negative day. But this is highly profitable and decent win rate. The only reason we have drawdowns like this is because of my settings. If I put this at the actual statistical edge, which is the 0.5 instead of VWAP, we'd probably be much higher, but it's too much risk for me. I'm assuming that we're just waiting for value to shift again. Like we established already, it's another balance rotation, consolidation, right? But in these areas, you're just looking for a shift outside of it. You're looking for someone to be trapped, or you're looking for someone to initiate below for continuation, just like on every other rotation so far. probably your edge. I don't know. Yeah, I gotta go as well. I'm not staying for the rest of the session. End of day on a short week? Hell no. I'm out of here. Can I share? The layout is it's pinned in Discord. All of my layouts. If you're a member, you get all of my layouts. It's in, check the pins. In intraday ideas, it's pinned. Also in Tendy Shop as well, in pins. Ugh. All right, you guys have a great long weekend. Happy 4th of July, early 4th of July. Don't blow up your hands. Have a good rest of your session. What else? Yeah. I'm gonna go walk my dog in 109-degree heat and hate myself, but it's got to get done. I cannot believe it's this hot here. It's insane. My energy bill is gonna be like $400. My AC is pumping. Yeah, if I see anything before when I get back, I'll post it in chat. But it just looks like consolidation for another break. Just play with Russell, guys. Like it's been our leader today, and just look to see if we can break outside of these ranges, or if we trap and then we are able to then hold our lows, right? That's been the rotation every single attempt so far today. It's been a failure to establish above, look below, retest of our value low, rejection, and continuation with Russell leading. If Russell wants to go up, then we look to play the top edge, and we look to play to our next, our previous area of value, right? Like this doesn't have to be crazy complicated. Yeah, all right. Peace before I stay too long. Goodbye, goodbye. Have a good holiday weekend.